Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Hello, my amazing friends. How are you? I hope this finds you in good health and secure. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for all of you who've recently and long ago, new members and new subscribers, I should say. We're not members, but we are members in a way of a Sangha. The Threefold Lotus Kuan is a Sangha of like-minded people looking to practice Buddhism, Shakyamuni's teachings correctly without the influence of cultural, linguistic, folklore, traditions. We just want to practice Buddhism right. Yeah? Just what is it? How do we do it? That's what this resource is all about. That's why I have a website, threefoldlotus.com, to answer these basic questions. That's why I do these videos. I try to do them at least once a day. I know I've been away a few days. Apologies. Trying to, anyway, you don't need to know about. I've been taking new medications, and sometimes they require some adjustment period. So that's why I haven't been on. Still feeling the effects, but I'm determined, right? Got to be strong in our practice. Got to keep going. Don't forget the books, the ebooks on threefoldlotus.com, as well as on lulu.com, although I'm trying to separate the two. You know about this. Anyway, we're starting today. I'm starting today on the final letter, Gosho, from Nichiren that I've included in this little assemblage of Goshos in this book, Nichiren On Karma. And before we start, I just wanted to make clear again, karma is a fundamental way of understanding the process, the moment-to-moment process of potential, what do you want? Instantiating, the engine of life, as I call it, okay? And the reason that's so fundamental to our straightforward, non-mystical practice is because it isn't a magical, mystical thing. It's something that science. I had one of you write me a note this morning. Science is finally catching up to something Shakyamuni became aware of 2,700 years ago. And that is that everything is a form, a manifestation, a form, correct word, of energy. That energy manifests potentially and therefore without parameters into myriad parameters because there's no limitation, no parameters. So once parameters and characteristics exist, we're witnessing a manifestation of that potential that has momentum, the momentum that we perceive through samsara as time and space. But that's our mind contending with this process. And that can sound irritatingly confusing. I understand. And I've take deep dives into this when I talk about the 3,000 realms in a single thought moment. And there's many videos, playlists to that regard. And it can start to sound, what's the popular term? Woo-woo, you know. But science is contending with this very thing in their research of quantum mechanics and how all things are not things. And it's fascinating to study. It's fascinating to expand our ideas of what we're experiencing. But when it comes to basic, let's just practice, let's see what happens. How is Buddhist mind, real Buddha mind, different from this constant mind I have that is contentious, is full of stress and anxieties, and is there a different way to be in this life without all of this stress? Well, my friends, that's exactly what Siddhartha was looking for, and that's exactly what he found when he became awakened. And ever since then, he's been talking about it, right? Starting some 2,700, sometimes I round it up to 3,000 because what's a couple hundred years in that amount of time, right? But what he saw, what he understood was so profound, language can't really, you can't pick a word out of French or Latin or English or Korean or whatever. And when you hear it, you go, oh, I get it. In fact, the chanting that we do, not a word, are sounds conceptualized with our samsaric mind, because that's all we do is identify. But they're conceptual characters, like, what do you call those? I know there's a grammatical term. You know, it's like a parenthesis, but it has a little point on it. What do you call those things? Anyway, the characters of Na Mu, Myo Ho Renge Kyo, specifically those 5, Namu being the additional 2 to make 7, the 2 numbers Nichiren is always talking about, right? They're like containers of myriad concepts, and really they stand for your insights to this very straightforward, very profound concept, this understanding that nothing is static, that everything that our samsaric mind says, that's a that, this is a this, that's not that, this is not that, so on and so forth, that is the past. That is identification. That is static thinking. And just like Bob, Ted, Alice, John are also that and this, that ourselves are not this endemic, permanent thing traveling through time. We are a process traveling through time. And as a process, we change moment to moment to moment to moment. Now, really, tell me you don't know that. Deep down, you know that. How many times has a single thing occurred around you that has changed your whole perception, your whole way of being in the world? We don't tend to think in those grand terms because we're so interested in containing and possessing and experiencing that the moment that we hang on to it. And it's like we're stretched into the future against our will. And Buddhism says, stop doing that. That's what's causing your stress. Release that desire to own, to possess those moments, those things, yourself, your ego. And allow yourselves, let yourselves get in the flow, moment to moment. Wow, this is happening now. Whatever happens now, don't carry it into the future, because what you're really doing, that's the illusion, is dragging it from the past. Let it go. Let it be. Because letting go has a connotation of it self-destructs or something. We have to let it not be anymore. That's not Buddhism. We're just we're letting it be moment to moment to moment. What we're releasing is our samsaric attachment, our monkey mind wanting to own. Let's just let it be along with us through this moment into the next. And let's observe Let's watch how it changes. Let's be smiling into change. Let's be embracing the constant development, instantiation, modification of things as they change. That's fascinating. That's living life. Trying to drag what was into the now, it makes things muddy. It makes things painful. Because the illusion is that you can do it. You're doing it in your mind, but it's not real. It's a false reality. That's why you're in trouble. The real reality is happening in this moment and into the next, the momentum. Yeah? You want to know how fast? You ever heard of the speed of light? Well, it has nothing to do with light. The little c in E equals mc squared, the c, which stands for the speed of light, is actually the speed of causality. Oh, wait a minute, that word causality. Isn't that a Buddhist term? Well, it's a term we use to talk about Buddhist insight. Always remember words, right? They're conceptual devices to point at something. What we want in Buddhism is the something. And when we chant Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, we are engaging, invoking that aha, I'm in it, and I'm moving, and everything is moving in this moment into the next. Buddha-ness. That is where we talk about suchness, because if something is constantly reinventing itself moment to moment, you can't say it's a that. You can only say it has these properties, these tendencies, these conditions. It's such-like. It has a suchness. Now we're starting to think like a Buddhist. And when we think everything as suchness, then the concreteness, the ownership, the solidity of samsara, it doesn't hold us. It doesn't hold our attention. It's released. It's allowed to evolve. And that's exciting to watch that. Yeah. Okay. So that whole process, energy manifesting, dissolving, returning, instantiating moment to moment with whatever influences have been put into it and are from it, that's karma. So there's no good or bad there. It's just identifying this energy of formations. Not the energy, not the form, but the action of what is in momentum, as you and I are. That's a fascinating thing to become aware of. I'm not going to go into quantum physics here, but so this final letter is called bow and arrow. And once again, and I encourage you to do this, I know I put this book together with several Gosho, but what you need to realize is when Shakyamuni was teaching the Dharma, right? When Nichiren talks about the teachings of Shakyamuni, although there are many concepts that he touches on and quotations and so forth, ultimately, each one of these is about karma. In fact, I would say you could say the word dharma and karma are extremely related. The dharma is the experience of the karma. The teaching about the karma is the dharma. Because ultimately, and you've read this in other sutras if you've studied beyond the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni himself said, ultimately, when you understand the Dharma, you understand that there is no Dharma. Because it's all just the process, the engine of life, the totality of which is the entire universe, which produces a sentient mind, and which the sentient mind reproduces moment to moment to moment to moment. Karma. Dharma is not a separate thing. It's simply the witnessing, the understanding of the process of life. Let's call that karma. See, words, they're just labels for cognition. Let's not get too there's all these words in science and in you can go into psychology and so forth, and they'll dissect cognition as separate from perception and blah, 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 blah. It's all experience. In Buddhism, all of that is experience. You can divide it into how the brain works. We're talking about the mind here. What does the mind do with what the brain identifies? It's almost that separation that's key to our discussion here, right? The brain is just a great collector, very samsaric. But our mind can transcend all of that information to witness the process of that information instantiating moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. Aha! Namo Myo Renge Kyo. So all of that is to say, when you read the bow and arrow and you say, well, Nichiren didn't mention what karma was but it is about karma. The foundation of the stories, the expedient means, this folklore of the bow and arrow isn't about a bow or an arrow, or who shot it and what it did. It's describing the engine of life, the way karma instantiates, and how to envision it in our sentient mind. It's a very foundational concept. So here we go. Nichiren says, I've received 1,000 coins in a bamboo container. Oftentimes when he writes to followers, whether they're monks or not, or lay monks or people, always starts out by acknowledging their support, right? Not to him individually, although they come to him as a teacher, as a responsible party to be the votary of the Lotus Sutra. So the gifts are taken as an offering to support that activity, right? That's why he often says, I've reported this to Gohonzon. In other words, that mental, sentient portal of understanding the experience of Buddha-ness. Not the scroll. We have a whole book on identifying mandala from Gohonzon, right? The scroll is a tool, a mandala, a tool for perceptive shift. But the perceptive shift is the mandala word. The scroll is what Nichiren created to contain the essential and the provisional teachings of the Lotus method. There they are, along with aspects of being Japanese. He was a Japanese monk, but he contained, in other words, the spiritual identity of the Japanese, but moreover, the teaching of the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni's teaching of the Dharma, and identified that from the Treasure Tower chapter, this Namo Myoho Renge Kyo in the center, right? By envisioning that, by focusing on that, we can enter our minds mandala-like into a different perceptive frame. Once we open that perceptive frame, that happens in the mind, that is what we're chasing, which literally is what go means, of go hanzan. The go is the chasing down that mental opening, which we call hanzan, like a doorway to Buddha-ness, a shift from samsara to suchness, to enlightenment, to awakening. Right? So the Gohonzan is actually a mental portal, identified as such by Nichiren. But he wasn't the first to identify it. Tendai talked all about it hundreds of years before Nichiren, yeah? So did Dengyo in Japan. All right, so let's continue. It is the power of the bow that determines the flight of the arrow, the might of the dragon that controls the movement of the clouds, and the strength of the wife that guides the actions of her husband. I want to point out once again, this is medieval Japan, how much respect and dignity Nichiren, and so did Shakyamuni, they're his words, to women in a world that's constantly keeping them beneath men, right? Very misogynistic world. There are little blips in history. I know, matriarchal societies as opposed to patriarchal societies, usually in indigenous peoples. That's wonderful. But it's not the overall norm, is it? In any teachings, unless you're aware of some indigenous people's teachings, where the matriarchal line is the most important. Makes sense. Woman as creator. It's a hard argument to defeat. But at any rate, I just want to point out once again, here is Nichiren, equanimity. Doesn't matter your sex. What matters is your mind. So here it is. The strength that the wife guides the actions of her husband. What a powerful influence. In the same way, it is your support that has enabled Toki to visit me here now. We know the fire by its smoke, discern the nature of the dragon by the rain, and recognize the wife by observing her husband. Thus, meeting here at this moment with Toki, I feel as if I were seeing you. So, this is a letter to Toki Jonin, but it's a letter written to Toki Jonin's wife, here referred to as Toki. So once again, yes, Nichiren wrote a lot of these goshos to women. But it's an important thing to be aware of is that Nichiren wants her to know that her identity is perceived and felt, experienced through her husband, and vice versa. But Toki has told me that while grieved at his mother's death, he was grateful that she passed away peacefully and that you gave her such attentive care. He said joyfully that he would never be able to forget this in any lifetime to come. So, Nichiren is reporting to Toki's wife, who, you know how relationships are, she may be not altogether aware of how much she's appreciated by her husband. This is common, right? But Nichiren knows this, so he wants to remind her how incredibly important her presence is in the life of her husband. But now, with all of this valuation, making her feel, you'll understand why in a few moments. My greatest concern now is your illness. So, Toki Jonin's mother was sick for a prolonged period of time. His wife, being by his side, trying to relieve his suffering and his pre-concerns and have him continue to do what he needed to do in life to support the family, took on the responsibility of caring for his mother. No small feat. Any of you who have experienced anything like this, you understand. It takes a lot out of you, right? Emotionally, spiritually, physically, right? And when she passed away, the mother, it was obvious that this had taken quite a toll on the wife, Toki, and she was now ill. Did she contract what the mother had? Is it an illness all of its own? Is it because her immune system was worn down because she was so tired and emotionally? We don't know. We can't travel back in time and know this. All we know is that she's ill. And now her husband goes to see Nichiren. My wife is invaluable. I've just lost my mother. I'm grieving, but now I'm worried. Right? My wife is such an important part of my identity. What do we do? How do we deal with this? Normal questions we would have today. Fully convinced that you will recover your health, you should continue moxibustion treatment for 3 years as regularly as if you've just begun. Even those who are free from illness cannot escape the transience of life, moment to moment to moment. But you are not yet old. And because you are a votary of the Lotus Sutra, so she was obviously not only practicing but encouraging others, you will not meet an untimely death. Right now, you're going through trials and suffering, and right? Don't we all? In this case, it's related to how much energy she put into making her mother-in-law comfortable. But her health is in decline. Now she's suffering physically from all of that. But that's also her karmic freight train, right? That's manifesting. But she's still young. So Nichiren is saying, don't let this, you just witnessed a death. Don't buy into that. Don't get glued to that as though, oh, now it's my turn, right? Oh, doesn't that sound samsaric? Monkey mind, yeah? Be encouraged that you're young, you're healthy, you're strong, you can make through this. Moxibustion was a treatment they did back then. But notice, Nichiren's always about attitude. And we are talking about karma here, which is influenced, as well as an influence. The influence on her, the repercussions of karma now she's facing are attacking her health. Right? It's been often said, I've said it, health issues are a manifestation of karma or repercussions from karma, right? Cause effect. So you can influence right back. You can alter that freight train, move it. How do we do that? By enlightening our minds to affect, to influence the physical manifestations of these repercussions. So he's saying, whatever treatment you're following, you need to take that treatment with the same zeal as like the first hopeful day, I'm going to do this, this is going to help. Not a week later going, oh, it's not helping. No, keep your mind strong. Boy, isn't this the constant message from Nichiren? And he got it from Shakyamuni, Tendai, Malo, Nagarjuna, Vasubandhu, so on and so forth. This is a constant theme within the scholarship of Buddhism. Get your attitude right. Attitude, intent, always. It's constantly there. Don't miss it. Even those who are free from illness cannot escape the transience of life, right? Because the next moment, I introduced this Gosho with that discussion. But you are not yet old, so don't defeat yourself. And because you are a votary of the Lotus Sutra, confidence, resolve, confidence. Know that you're chasing the Buddha I is having influence on your karmic freight train. and the karma around you, because it's all the same karma, engine of life. You will surely not meet an untimely death. Untimely, because this isn't your time. Certainly not because of this health issue. Your illness is surely not due to karma, as though there was bad karma that you're now expiating. This is just the process of influences that have entered karma that you now need to influence out. But even if it were, even if this is part of your karmic tendencies and conditions, you could rely on the power of the Lotus Sutra to cure it. To cure it. Again, words, don't get too attached to them. Basically, Nichiren is saying, have confidence in your practice. That confidence alone will influence these negative thoughts and feelings that you're experiencing. And that will mollify your physical manifestations. How can it not? This is how energy works. King Ajatashatru extended his life by 40 years by embracing the Lotus Sutra, right? That old song that expedient means. Chen added 15 years to his life. You also are a practitioner of the Lotus Sutra, and your resolute mind is like the waxing moon or the rising tide. There's that conviction again, that resolve, that confidence. Be deeply convinced, then, that your illness cannot possibly persist. I will overcome this. I will drive this out of my experience. And that your life cannot fail to be extended. Take care of yourself and do not burden your mind with grief, because Nichiren's fully aware that on top of her not feeling well, she's grieving at the loss of her mother-in-law, along with her husband's extended sensations, feelings, experience of loss of his mother, right? Don't be taken, understand, life ends. Mother-in-law gone. But don't drag that sensation of loss into every moment of life, because that's influencing you, cause effect, your experience of karma, engine of life. And so if you're weak in mind and spirit as you're facing a physical illness, you're not influencing that physical illness in the right way. Keep your mind strong. Don't deny the pain of loss of a relative, but don't also drag the feelings along day to day. It's over. It's a loss. How about remember her in a wonderful light, a life-giving light? How much she gave to you in her presence while on the earth as a human being. Thankful for her having been a portal for your husband to be, right? This kind of gratitude in the face of a loss. It's a different way of thinking, isn't it? When sorrows arise, Nichiren continues, think of Iki and Tsushima and of the Daifu of the Daizelfu office. Or think of the people of Kamakura who are enjoying the delights of the skies and spaceborne realm. But when the soldiers left for Tsukushi, their parting with their wives and children who stayed behind was like bark being ripped from a tree. They pressed their faces together and lamented while gazing into each other's eyes. Now the men gradually grow more distant, traveling through Yui Beach, Inamura, Koshogyo, Sakawa, and the Hakone Pass. And so as one day passes and then another goes by, They march farther and farther away, and rivers, mountains, and clouds are interposed between them and their families. Tears accompany them, and grief is their companion. How sorrowful they must be. So he's talking about separation anxiety, right? If the Mongol armies should come and attack while they are thus lamenting, they will be taken prisoner, whether in the mountains or the sea, and will suffer misery in ships or in Koryo, Korea. This is entirely because of the treatment people have accorded Nichiren, the votary of the Lotus Sutra, who have committed no fault, and his father and mother to all the living beings of Japan. Without reason, they revile and beat him and parade him through the streets. Such insanity has provoked reprimands from the 10 demon daughters, causing the present situation to arise. In addition, events that are 100,000, 10,000 million times more difficult to endure will occur in the future. You will see such mysteries unfold before your eyes. So there's something happening in tandem with this struggle with the death of the mother and this illness of Toki. And Nichiren is trying to put her suffering into context. There's a war going on. In medieval Japan, there's always some kind of conflict. But now the Mongols are threatening to invade. And a lot of families are being separated because the samurai are going off to meet the Mongols in battle. Yeah. And Nichiren is pointing out, not egotistically, that her conviction in the Lotus Sutra is all this more important, right? He called her a votary of the Lotus Sutra, just like you and I. And he's saying a lot of these trials that are happening right now, much greater for the entirety of Japan than, yes, I know you're suffering right now, but put it in context. You're alive. And the state of the country of Japan needs you to be alive, to continue, and to continue being a votary of the Lotus Sutra. Look at me. Look at Nichiren's life. And he talks about himself in the third person now. Look at what has befallen me for pointing the truth out. And look at what happens to the country karmically, the repercussion of, right, persecuting the votary of the Lotus Sutra. The Mongols are starting to invade. The country is like a human body, if you will. Or the universe. The energies manifesting are going to manifest. Do you support their manifestation in a negative manner or in a positive manner? If negative, expect consequences. There's always consequences to every, right? Cause and effect are the same word. Cause-effect, right? They happen together. The effect may not be apparent in the moment the cause is made, but it's there, right? That's what we call latent effect, but it's the same relationship. It just collects momentum over time. There it is again. And then he closes his letter. There is nothing to lament when we consider that we will surely become Buddhas. Even if one were to become an emperor's consort, of what use would it be? Right? Well, you become a famous rock star. So what? You're no different than the plumber. You're just a sentient mind, experiencing what you're experiencing. Ultimately, we're all the same. Even if one were to be reborn in the skies and space, what end would it serve? Instead, you will follow the way of the Dragon King's daughter. A very specific reference to the Lotus Sutra, right? A woman becoming a Buddha, awakened. And rank with the nun Mahaprajapati. How wonderful, how wonderful. Please chant Namo Myoho Renge Kyo Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. That's how he ends with this encouragement. So that whole letter, and we're done with this book now. That whole letter is about karma. How to deal with it, how to experience it, how to witness and participate, influence karma. This was the groundbreaking thing that Shakyamuni began talking about immediately, which confronted the Brahmins and the Hindus, right? Because their karma existed, the word karma existed long before Shakyamuni. But the understanding was that you're just like toothpaste out of the tube. The universe just provided all of this destiny and these characteristics to you that you can never escape. That basically, like all religions, really, we humans are just a fodder, a product of destiny, something we can never change, that it's imprinted upon us, and we're just victims. The universe, life happens to us. Ow, ow. Oh, this or that God or that deity or the new age, the universe is saying, this is my lot. That's how karma was propagated, as these are the sets of circumstances. In fact, Brahmins would make appointments with families to go see them and tell them what their lot in life was going to be. This was the caste system in India. Still exists today, amazingly. And then Shakyamuni comes along and says, no. That thing you call karma, you're actually the center of it. You experience it intimately. You already know this. Problem is, it's not happening to you. It is you. And because it is you, you can influence it. You can modify it. You can shape it. Some is harder to influence than others. Some you can influence easily. But the first thing you must do is take complete responsibility for your life, be living in it. What? Yeah, a lot of people wanted to kill him. There's many stories of the attempts on Shakyamuni's life. Yeah. And Nichiren wasn't the first. People don't like hearing that they're ultimately responsible for their lives. We love it when somebody else tells us what to do. It seems to be a karmic reality of the instantiation of human beings. We like to be told what to do. How authoritarian. We wonder why we have such disgusting dictators and authoritarian leaders that just slaughter people and do horrible things. But the flip side of that is we kind of ask for it. We'd rather somebody told us what to, because then we don't have to be responsible. It wasn't me, it wasn't my fault, right? Isn't that the core of every damn religion on the planet? So yeah, I get upset when people call Buddhism a religion, because it's everything but. Because it's truly understanding that each one of us is responsible for experiencing the entirety of our life, our stream, our momentum, and sharing that with all of the other sentient minds around us. This is Buddhism, friends. And this is why karma is such a central thing, that it's so central that it's not even pointed out in these stories. But that's what these stories are about. Wrangling our mind around total ownership of our life, manifesting the full potential of our life, rather than cowering and hiding behind non-real things, the past. Yeah. It's like being in a time machine. Anyway, I don't want to get too abstract here. I hope you understand karma a little better after this series of Nichiren on Karma. If I could find a good transcription tool to take these videos, to transcribe them, so I could then I'd have to heavily edit them, obviously, because a lot of repetition, and infuse them then into a book like this book, Nichiren on Karma. It would be probably 10 times thicker, might be a couple of volumes after you get through translating all my words. But I haven't found one yet. But if I do, eventually I could put all of this into a printed form, or just watch the videos, listen to the podcasts, right? I can't write all of this stuff into these books. They'd just be, I wouldn't have any time to make these videos, for one thing, yeah? So I so appreciate your listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It does so much to support this Sangha, the expansion of this Sangha, yeah? And if you can, support us, support me, by buying ebooks or print books. The podcasts are free. Everything on Threefold Lotus Sutra, or threefoldlotus.com is free, except for the ebooks, right? Get them on all of it. And the patrons, you guys who are going on Patreon or direct to PayPal and giving monthly little stipends. Some of you are very generous, and Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. I'm so grateful for your support. All in the service of doing what Nichiren is doing here. Trying to encourage us. Give us the strength to identify with our Buddha-ness. Yeah? Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Take care of your health. Be kind to yourself, right? Taking care of your health is being kind to yourself. Practice. Keep your practice strong. And I'll see you in the next one. Okay? Bye for now.